Welcome back to Coding Drift. So far we have built our JavaScript application and created the action. The next piece of the Redux puzzle is the reducer. Let us quickly recall its purpose. While actions simply describe what happened, reducers determine how the application state should change in response to those actions. They are the logic behind state transitions. A reducer in Redux is just a function, a pure function that receives two arguments, the current state and the action dispatched. It returns the next state of the application based on the action type. So let us go ahead and implement the reducer for our library application. So we have created the action here. Next we will be creating the reducer. It will receive a state and we have to give initial state as the default parameter here, and the next parameter will be the action. So we haven't declared initial state here, so I'll declare this initial state. As we know, the state will be an object, so I'll create an object. Since even though we just need a value, we will create it as an object. The property will be book count. Let us say we have 100 book in our library. We can have other properties also. We can have details of the book as well. For the sake of simplicity, I'm just creating a book count here. I'm not mentioning which book, how many count we have. I'm just mentioning the book count. Inside this, I'll have a switch case because we will have multiple types. So to verify which is the type, I will have the switch case. So we need to check for action.type. So if type is book borrowed, then we need to reduce the book count. Since reducer is a pure function and we should not modify the state directly, I cannot write like state dot book count equal to state dot book count -1. This is incorrect. The correct way of doing is we just need to return this state with updated count. So I'll spread the state and I'll say book count as state dot book count minus action dot payload, because remember we are passing the payload here, so we need to update the quantity from whatever quantity is passed from the action. So this is the correct way of doing it. So as you can see, we are not updating the state object directly. Let us say we have something called a book list here. We don't want this property to be overwritten, so that is why we are spreading it here and updating the book count by getting the book count and subtracting the quantity passed in the payload. And by default, we need to return the state. So whenever the store is initialized, right, this reducer will be called without any action type. In that case, it will go to the default and you need to initialize the state with the initial state. That's why this default is important. If we do not return the state here, then the store will not be initialized with the initial state. These break statements are not required here as we are returning here. So that is how we can write the reducer. And that completes the reducer part of our library example. We now have our initial state, reducer that listens for the actions, and the logic that returns the new state. The last remaining step is setting up the Redux store where all of this comes together. We will cover that in the next video. Thank you for watching. Hope you are liking this series. If you are, please consider subscribing to the channel. See you in the next one.